What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So, if you are a person that gets a little bit pissed off as to how far left our country was heading about the past, well, it's been more than the past 4 years, but the better part of 10 years, and the whole political aspect of it pisses you off, you might want to change the dial. You might want to go on to the next channel because this one's going to piss you off as it did me. And my wife was worked up for like 30 minutes yesterday after I read her this article. I was like, whoa, whoa, you got to remember November the 5th, November the 6th, it's over with. We're headed back in the right direction. I'm not a political channel. I refuse to be. So I'm going to try my best to continue here and to not get this demonetized. So just check out this headline. Inmate who strangled 11-month-old will get taxpayer funded gender surgery, judge rules. This thing down here that I'm pointing to, yeah, that thing. That's who the article's about. Indiana Attorney General Todd Rokita condemned a federal ruling last week which supported a prisoner's right to transgender procedures while incarcerated. The ruling by federal judge Richard Young sided with inmate Autumn Cordellione, this thing, Autumn Cordellione, who sued in 2023 to reverse a state law denying transgender people certain medical procedures while incarcerated. The American Civil Liberties Union of Indiana claimed in a press release at that time that the taxpayer funded medical services were, quote, necessary and even life saving, end quote. Judge Young's ruling declared that Cordellione requires gender affirming surgery to prevent risk of serious bodily and psychological harm. Taking to X, Rokita explained he planned to appeal the ruling as soon as possible. Of course I disagree, Rokita wrote. How could you not? An Indiana inmate convicted of murder wants our taxpayers to fund her gender altering surgery. Hoosiers do not want this. Now, I just want to be clear. This article is referring to it as her. It's very tough in real time to edit out the word her and put he. So I'm just reading what I see, but he is clearly a he. He is not a her. Okay, I want to be clear on that, and we're going to delve a little bit more into that. We're still reviewing the court's opinion, but you can undoubtedly expect our office to appeal this decision, he added. The local ACLU, however, cheered the ruling as a victory for the LGBT community. Today marks a significant victory for transgender individuals in Indiana's prisons, Legal Director Ken Falk said. Denying evidence based medical care to incarcerated people simply because they are transgender is unconstitutional. We are pleased that the court agreed. I wouldn't suggest denying them medical care because they are transgender. I would suggest denying them medical care because they gave up that right when they brutally, violently strangled an infant. I'm sure this is going to get demonetized. Cordellione is currently serving a 55-year sentence at an all-male state prison. He is a male. He's a male. For strangling an 11-month-old. In February, the inmate launched a separate lawsuit after a prison chaplain allegedly prohibited her from wearing a hijab outside her bed quarters. Cordellione allegedly informed the chaplain, quote, I am an eclectic practitioner who is a member of the Theosophical Society in America, she went on, noting, I practice a diversity of faiths in order to custom tailor my spiritual beliefs to my spiritual needs, aka I'm a crazy wench. A newly resurfaced document from Vice President Kamala Harris's 2020 presidential run shows she previously supported taxpayer funded transgender surgeries for transgender inmates. A questionnaire Harris filled out for the ACLU declared she would support, quote, executive authority to ensure that transgender and non binary people who rely on the state for medical care, including those in prison and immigration detention, will have access to comprehensive treatment associated with gender transition, including all necessary surgical care. I support policies ensuring that federal prisoners and detainees are able to obtain medically necessary care for gender transition, including surgical care, while incarcerated or detained, Harris wrote. Transition treatment is a medical necessity, and I will direct all federal agencies responsible for providing essential medical care to deliver transition treatment. All right, so let me just say right out of the gate, I've never been a big fan of politics and how it all just becomes one big smear campaign. Okay. So I want to say that this article was released on September the 24th. Can you think of another day close by in proximity on the calendar to September the 24th that is notable for America? Like November the 5th, Election Day? I don't know. Interesting how this article came out September the 24th. This article, being a practical, objective thinker like I am, I look at this and I say, okay, although it does seem like all of this is true because I did fact check this. And this is not just some bullshit made up thing to try to smear the left. Okay, it's not. But it is interesting how it came out when it did. And this article makes it sound like somebody literally walked into Kamala Harris's office, threw on the desk a picture of this thing right here, and said, okay, this is a man, but he feels like a woman and he wants to transition into a woman and receive transition surgery. By the way, did I mention that he murdered by strangling his 11-month-old infant daughter? But the taxpayers of Indiana should absolutely, we believe, be responsible for paying for this psychopath's gender reassignment surgery. What do you think, Kamala? And she was like, I think that's a great idea. Although that didn't happen in that way, that questionnaire that she filled out completely aligns with this school of thought. So that includes, anyone who depends on the government for their medical care, which that includes people in prison. They are a prisoner, a ward of the state. Therefore, their medical care is completely and solely dependent upon the state in which they are incarcerated. Okay. So let me go over to this other article. It kind of hits, is shorter. This one's really short and it kind of hits a different angle. So there may be one or two things that repeats, but it's going to be quick. A federal judge ruled the Indiana Department of Corrections ban on gender affirming care is likely unconstitutional, and an inmate from Evansville is at the center of this lawsuit. The ACLU of Indiana sued the DOC in U.S. District Court on behalf of Autumn Corteleone. That's this thing right here. See that thing down there? Arrested and convicted as Jonathan Richardson, right? See, Autumn Corteleone is actually Jonathan Richardson, which means he is a man in an all-male prison. I'm so going to get demonetized on this channel for talking about this shit. So arrested and convicted as Jonathan Richardson in the early 2000s for the murder of her 11-month-old stepdaughter. According to the initial complaint, Corteleone was diagnosed in 2020 with gender dysphoria and prescribed a female hormone and testosterone blocker, which was taken since that time. While the medicine has helped, the lawsuit states Cordellion continues to experience symptoms of gender dysphoria, including depression and anxiety. Oh. Well, you know who doesn't have the chance to have depression and anxiety? Yeah, your 11-month-old that you brutally strangled. Your 11-month-old never made it to the age where they were even able to know what depression and anxiety were. Now, did they? And I would argue that the depression and anxiety that this thing right here is feeling is probably more a deep down, concurrent, chronic feeling of guilt for having strangled a helpless 11-month-old infant. And people can say all they want. Oh, people are psychopaths. They don't care. Listen, people's depression and anxiety oftentimes in life are self-induced. Okay. And I'm not saying that there's not times where a person's anxiety or depression is not a result of an outside stimulus or an outside force acting upon them. I'm not saying that. But in most cases, people make poor choices, do stupid things, and then they cause their own depression and anxiety. It's absolutely a fact. Okay. So the fact that this person did what they did back in the day, I would say that has way more to do with their depression and anxiety and possibly their perceived gender dysphoria. Let me read the last couple of paragraphs before we close out here. Accordingly, at this point, gender affirming surgery is necessary so that her physical identity can be aligned with her gender identity, and so her gender dysphoria can be eliminated. The suit states Cordellion was on the wait list for evaluation for the surgery, but a new Indiana statute does not allow the DOC to provide or facilitate sexual reassignment surgery. The ACLU argues in its suit that for some, the surgery is a medical necessity. In this case, Cordellion is seeking a orchiectomy, which removes the testicles, and vaginoplasty, which, oh my God, which is the construction of a vagina. Okay, this person will spend the rest of their lives in prison, 55 years. If they don't spend the rest of their life in prison, I don't know how old they are. So if they are ever to get out of prison, they will be getting out of prison at a point where they are, he'll probably die in prison. Okay. He's a male in a male prison. And even if they did give him this surgery, call him a female, and send him to a female prison, what the hell does he need a vagina for in prison? Tell me that. Tell me that. What does he need either for? As long as you can piss, as long as you have a hole to piss out of, you can just have neither one there, as far as I'm concerned. You strangled a helpless 11-month-old infant. Who gives a rat's ass what kind of genitals you have? And you're in prison. The hell does it matter what kind of genitals you have? So the taxpayers of Indiana are responsible for paying for your gender reassignment surgery just so you can feel like a woman or so you can be the woman that you supposedly feel like. That's it, guys. That's the answer. You know what? That was it all along. And I bet you if back in the day, if Jonathan Richardson had have gotten this surgery and he would have been turned into a woman, which is really how he felt deep down, he probably would have never murdered and strangled this helpless 11-month-old baby. That's it. That's it. That's the answer. Thank God, we finally figured this out. Man, who knew? Who knew how powerful those gender reassignment surgeries are? I mean, could have potentially prevented this child from being murdered. And here we are thinking that here we are thinking that this thing is some sort of psychopath. God, thank God. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment down below. I'm sure everyone has a pretty strong opinion on this. And if you would become a member, I'll leave the member link in the description. Also, you can hit that cash button down below this video that says thanks if you'd like to leave a cash donation, if you like my take on these sort of things. And yeah, just the guy on my lunch break is out. You guys can call me Corey too. All right, I'll see you next time. Peace.